Hi, Justin. Welcome on board. Justin wanting to know what animal tracks are my favourite. I do like the hyena tracks. I think they're very pretty tracks with the half moon toes. Obviously very exciting to find a leopard track. Always nice tracks to find. And I really like the genet track because it is just so dainty and your thumb pretty much covers the whole of the track, but it just looks very neat and pretty. Oh, actually, that reminds me, I did pick something up for a Who Dung It. So, fingers on buzzers. Let's see if we can actually have a look at this. So I'm just putting gloves on, so that should immediately tell you something about this piece of dung. Ooh, I'm going to jump off here just so we don't get a load of dust all over the car. Taylor would not be happy. Okay, so if I can take this out. So here we go. So very white in colour, so that should help to ID it quite easily. There's a lot of hair fragments in there. Now this animal will quite often use a toilet, and we did find it with another area that had been toileted in, so that should also help you, because there are other animals that this can look like this, and I'll go into a bit more detail. But if you want to join in a Who Dung It, then it's hashtag Safari Live or YouTube and send in your answers of who might have left this. And as I say, I will go into a little bit more detail about the colour and everything once you give your answers through. So I'm actually going to confuse matters and maybe leave it here. Okay. So. Ooh. Oh, well done, everybody. That is hyena. Now, hyenas obviously eat a lot of bone, so there's a lot of calcium, and that's what turns the dung white, because they have an excess of it. But you have to be careful, because the lions I have seen have dung occasionally when they have been eating a lot of bone. So if they've caught maybe an impala or something like that and they've actually been able to chew through the bones, perhaps if they had a nice piece from the buffalo, a smaller piece of bone, you might see it then. But generally speaking, the lions and the leopards as well occasionally could go white if they've eaten a lot of bone. But generally speaking, they are dark and they don't use a toilet, whereas the hyenas do use a toilet, or what we call a midden. That is the terminology that we use. And there is actually a hyena midden just on the corner of Gallagher and Vulture, which I saw. Hi Snazzy, welcome on board. Asking why it's so powdery. Again, it's because of the consistency of the dung itself, so it's not very bloody. So with the cats, they're going to be eating a lot of fresh meat, so a lot of blood, so that helps to bind the scat together. Whereas the hyenas tend to go for the carcasses. So if the hyenas have done a lot of hunting, then you'd see it being quite dark, and I have found dark dung at the midden as well. But when they are scavenging from the carcasses, it's usually quite a lot of bone. Hi Keith, asking if I have a favourite dung. Oh, I got very excited after I found some aardvark dung. Shame I was with guests and I actually was with a fellow guide and we both appreciated finding this aardvark dung, and these poor guests were like, what are you on? Why are you getting so excited about dung? Okay, so we've got some Ellie tracks heading that direction as well, so that's good. Maybe we'll catch up with them. And they're over our tracks. Ah, so good news, Tristan's managed to extract himself. But I think he still has to fight off the gremlins. So we're going to carry on down Zoe's road. So yeah, with the aardvark dung you just don't get a chance to see it very often, and it's got a lot of sand in it because they're eating the termites from the mound. So they take in some sand as well. Hi Starlight, asking what the difference between dung and scat is. Absolutely nothing. It's just scat is more of the, I suppose, scientific word. Yeah, if you say scat, and you'll also hear us changing between track and spore as well. So tracks and spore are the same thing. Just I think spore is the Afrikaans word. And I believe actually in India they use pug marks. Oh, there's a daker through there. You might dive off, as the name suggests. Can you see him through there at all? Yep. Dwarf antelope. I see you. Little male with the horns there. So the daker translates as to dive, and they're displaying it very well. They do dive through the bush. It's quite an interesting little antelope, especially when it comes to its diet, because it eats fungus. As it is a browser like some of the other antelope, so it does eat the leaves, but it does have quite a high content of even meats in its diet. So it will eat caterpillars, and it will eat nests, chicks from nests, and fungus as well. The fungus makes up quite a large portion of the diet. Quite unusual for an antelope. Just wildebeest tracks there. So we now have the sun on our side, which is casting shadows into the tracks, so at least hopefully we should be able to catch any sight of leopard tracks here. I'm wondering actually if we're able to see these tracks here. Hi Charlie, I think all the other guides are actually looking for the lion. Maybe the wild dog that crossed through, and I think I'm on the wrong side for this, so I shall have to try and see if I can find some tracks on this side of the road instead. So still checking the termite mounds here. It could be that shadows made a way through this block. I think we're still quite higher from that pathway, and I'm wondering if that does cut straight through to Treehouse Dam. It might well do. It's a very big highway. So the gain trails are what we look for the movement of the animals as well, and the gain trails tend to all meet up and will eventually meet up at water. So if you know the behaviour of the animals when they go down to drink, if you're ever lost in the bush and you come across some fresh tracks and you know roughly what time of day it is, you can actually find the water if you follow or head away from the tracks, depending on, as I say, the time of day. So I think it is just us looking for shadow this morning. Hi Adele, welcome on board. And asking if anything did happen to Shadow, could the cub survive? And I believe the cub is about a year old. Is that correct? Was it just under? Just under a year. So if it's just under a year, it should still be able to survive. They are actually quite hardy animals, and the instinct to hunt is strong. And you know, Kruger's two, they were just about a year old, and with Kruger not being seen anymore, and they've been known to hunt Impala. Okay, so it's about 8 months old. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to be relying on Shadow for milk. She'll just be relying on her for meat. But as I say, even 6-month-old cubs will start hunting small game, small prey, sorry. So insects, maybe reptiles, whatever they can get their claws into. So they're quite a versatile cat. And there is a bit of a debate as to whether the leopardess actually teaches them how to hunt, like takes them to a hunt or not. Occasionally we have seen the cubs watch Kruger, but that could have been sort of by accident, that she just found something and she started hunting rather than take them with her on a hunt. So while we still look for Shadow's tracks, I think Tristan's managed to extract himself and find the Birmingham Boy once again, so definitely have a good time watching him.
We have extracted ourselves. We managed just to quickly jack ourselves up and just get a branch underneath. The bank had given way a little bit, and that's why it was in a situation that we got a little stuck. But we're still with Tinyo. He's still mobile, heavily north. He's moving very fast, and he's going towards Buffelshoek Dam. So we're definitely going to just have a little look at him as he goes up towards the dam itself, and then we're going to have to make space because there's a number of guys that want to follow and want to see him, and we've been with him pretty much the whole morning, so don't want to have a situation where we lose him and then the other guys don't get to see him. So that's why we're going to try and just follow him, like I say, to the dam itself. But I say following him, it's more like he's following us to the dam at this stage. I'm reversing so that you guys can all get to see his face as we go along. You can see there's a couple cars that are behind him and they're doing the following. We're doing the leading at this stage. Mita, the male lion, also smells like popcorn. Mita, no, not really. Their urine doesn't smell. Remember that the leopards, they don't smell like popcorn, the actual animal. It's just their wee that smells like popcorn. So the lion's wee doesn't smell like popcorn. It smells more like cat wee, which is very pungent and not very nice smelling Mita. But they don't, unfortunately, smell like the leopards do. The leopards have the nice smelling urine. I'm trying to watch where I'm going as well, going backwards. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it is certainly nice to see his head and not his tail as we go along. So it's very pleasant rather to be in a situation like this than it is to be behind him. And it seems as though the whole morning all we've done is chase his backside. So Chantal, if I have a neck problem, you're going to have to send me to get a chiropractor sorted from staring behind me the whole time, and also trying to avoid hitting any stumps, which I almost did there. Whoopsie. That was close. I almost drove into that tree just over here. This little one over here. I wasn't really paying too much attention and almost hit it. That wouldn't have gotten down. Now you'll see that this line's going to cut straight across and he's going to come out just on my right hand side here. I've got a little path and I guarantee he's going to walk through it and he'll pop out somewhere where I am. Now when I go around, there's going to be a pathway coming out. Where is it? There it runs. So it's just running parallel with me still. I thought it was going to come more towards the road, but it's still running parallel at this stage. So I'm just going to keep going. And then what we're going to do is try and position ourselves at Buffelshoek Dam, because he's definitely going to come to the dam. He's not far away now at all. And so I'd rather get into that area and get ourselves into a good position, and then we can be able to watch him from the dam itself. Also, I think my neck might break if I continue to reverse the way that I am at the moment. So here we go. There's somewhere where I can turn around, finally. Whew. That was a marathon reversing session. Now I've got gaffer tape stuck to me. It's all happening. The problem is that the guys there are not going to be able to follow him much longer anyway. Andy, you're wondering if all 4 of the Birmingham boys were together, would they still scent mark, or would they all scent mark? Most definitely, Andy. Even all 4 together, you'll find different ones will scent mark in different places, but they most certainly do scent as a group. See that? Right, sounds like gremlins are climbing on, so I'm going to try and see if I can't wait here for this male line, and while we do that, let's go back to Tara, and we'll see you all in a little bit.
Well, welcome back. So we haven't found any tracks crossing over the road from Shadow, so she might still be in that block there. So I think we're going to maybe have to call off our search for now. And so it's a bit like a needle in a haystack going in there. So hopefully she'll pop out at some stage. Perhaps Tristan will be able to try and catch up with her later on this afternoon. So we're just going to do a lap around towards Treehouse Dam, see if there's anything there. I think there was potentially tracks from Mvula crossing over Finneman's Cut line. I didn't see anything on Zoe's now saying that he's crossed over, so we'll do a lap around up onto Rebecca's again. Let's say if we do that, Shadow might just pop out, but we'll head down to Treehouse and just see if there's anything around there. You never know, as I say, I might have missed just the one track that crossed over, but we were sort of scouring the edge quite closely. So yeah, I think it was Shongile that was heard taking down the Impala about a week ago now, or 2 weeks. Hi, Stephen. And I wonder if we can see the vulture from this side. Who's in the nest at the moment. So I think they do have a chick. It'd be nice to try and see it. Yeah, Mum's, or one of the parents is there. But Stevie wanting to know if Shadow's actually taken over more of Karula's territory. And it sounds like she has. I think Tandy's been pushing into this area, but she used to sort of be found more towards Cheetah Plains in the east, and I think around Chitwa. And Shadow went off to the west. Occasionally Tandy used to come in the south, but I say we've seen Tandy quite far north in Karula's old territory. So it does sound like the girls are actually realising that Mum's no longer here. So there is one of the adults. I'm not seeing the chick head at the moment. So this is a white-backed vulture. And I do believe the chick has been seen. So it's already hatched, and they do tend to lay 1 egg, do the vultures. Other raptors tend to lay 2 and have the Cain and Abel sort of thing playing out. So unfortunately, one will have sort of the parent's attention a lot more. They'll get fed a lot more than the subordinate or the smaller chick. And occasionally you do hear of them actually killing the subordinate chick. Sometimes the subordinate will just starve because it's not getting the food from the parents. But with the vultures, they do tend to just have the 1 egg. And it's usually this time of year, so this is very typical during the winter seasons. And it's probably to coincide with the possibility of more carcasses. Especially if there's not a lot of food around, animals might die of starvation probably the carcasses are easier to see because the bush dies back. So there's a lot of reasons why the vultures are more likely to have the chicks this time of year. So I think there's some.
We have indeed, Tara. We've made it down. I'm just trying to get around so I can get you the best possible view of this lion drinking, which will be right there. How's that? Look at the reflection on that. Isn't that beautiful? I might just sneak a quick little sneaky illegal photo just because of the reflection. So I do apologize for the little click sound, but it was nice just to see. But look at that. I'm sure he's a thirsty boy from walking as far as he has. He's gone a long way to get to where he is now. So I would imagine that he is a very thirsty chap indeed. But how cool is that? Very pretty look. Very nice. Like I say, I would imagine that he's going to spend a lot of time drinking like that. It's been a long walk, and so he'll be lapping up lots of water. And now, cats drinking is a fascinating thing. They don't actually lap water up and make a bucket or anything like that to bring water into the mouth. What you'll see is, look how his tongue goes down, and it almost kisses the surface of the water. And so with those fine hairs that are on the tongue that are rough, it causes that to grab the surface tension of the water and actually pulls it, and then the mouth closes as the tongue is coming up. And so that's how they drink water. They're not actually licking water up in the sense that we would think, where they kind of get the tongue into the water and then scoop it. It's actually all to do with surface tension, and as the water is being pulled with those rough hairs, so the mouth closes and little droplets of water are being absorbed. And that's why they will drink for long periods of time. You can see there's some people that are watching from above. I definitely think we've managed to secure ourselves the best spot though, because we're right at eye level with this particular male, which is fantastic for us, and it makes certainly a much easier position than I think where some of the other guys are at this stage. They're having a look. Sammy Jane, you're wondering if lions get grumpy. Well, lions will sometimes get on the grumpier side of life. If there's something that's irritating them, then they can get quite grumpy, and it normally is to do with females and food items. So with each other and with females that are in the area, you will find that they sometimes get a little bit on the grumpy side with one another. So it does happen, and when lions get grumpy, you'll find that the earth almost shakes with their grumpiness, because they will go after each other. There will be loud growls and roars. There will be claws out and teeth bared, and if it really gets very grumpy, then they'll even go after one another. So the Birmingham boys will fight amongst each other, and that's why Tinyo has got all of those scars all over his face, is from fighting with each other over females and over carcasses and food. And you'll find that they do then go at each other, and a grumpy lion is never a pleasant lion to be around. But isn't that the most serene scene? You can actually hear his lapping of water from where we are, all across the dam here. Very cool. Now I wonder if after this he's going to settle down. Justin, you say if Tinyo keeps drinking the way he's going to end up becoming an aquatic lion. Well, I would imagine so. He's really spending a long time. This is a long drink for a lion, even by anyone's standards. So it's amazing to actually see how long he does drink for. It's because he's walked so far today. He's really gone a long way to get to where we are now, and we know that he's been back and forth and moving around quite a bit, so that's why he's drinking as much as he is. He's tired and he needs to rehydrate. It's a warm morning now that early morning chill has gone off. The sun has come out and the sun is hot, and so that's why he's trying to rehydrate as much as he is now. But I don't think it can last much longer. I'm sure he must be at a situation where he's getting saturated with water. Or not. Seems as though he's still going. Also, when they drink like this, it's not as much water as we think is going into their mouths. As I was saying just now, it's just all to do with surface tension, so it's actually not really as much as we actually think it is. Isn't that beautiful when he looks at us like that? Adele, you're wondering how long a boy like Tinyo would go without water. Well, it's like most animals out here in the world, and like us as people. Mammals, unfortunately, their cells are mostly comprised of water, which means that they need water pretty much daily. So lions, you'll find, will drink daily, but you'll probably find he can go about 3 days before he'll be really in a serious problem. But generally they are drinking daily, much like us as people. They do require some water intake, and as most mammals do. The thing is, with some of the mammals, things like steenbok, they are so small that they're able to get their water intake that required to survive off dew of the grass in the early mornings, whereas the bigger you are, the more water you require. And we know that buffalo are heavily water dependent, elephants, hippos, rhinos, all of these animals rely on water because they're so large. And so the lions will require water every day, but they probably could survive to about 3 days, and then they're going to be in really bad shape from there. But you are one thirsty girl. Tad, you're wondering how big his paws are in comparison to my hand. Well, Tad, what we'll do is if we leave off, well, we're going to leave now after his drinking session and allow some of the other guys to get in here. So once we've done that, I'll go back along where he's walked, and I'll try find a footprint for you, and I'll put my hand next to it to show you. But to give you an idea, it's about the same size as my hand on Tinyo. Tinyo's actually got quite big feet compared to some of the other Birminghams, so he's not one of the smaller ones. I don't know who the smallest feet are, but there is one that's got quite small feet in comparison to the others. So his are quite large, but I'd say about the size of my hand, and we'll measure them and you'll be able to see just now just how big they are. But that is a beautiful, beautiful sight. The only problem is all his drinking is causing ripples that has ruined his reflection. When he first came down, that reflection was magnificent. Bless you, Senzo. Even an Mfumo heard you. Maybe that's going to be the end of his drinking. There we go. I think that's him finished. Or not? No. No, we're still thirsty. Wow. He's a very thirsty boy today. Ladybug, you say he won't be able to walk afterwards. Well, no, I don't think so. Between that full belly of buffalo that he's still got and the amount of water he's taken on, I would imagine that the first shade we see, he's going to flop down and sit there. And while he gets on his way towards the shade, he's probably going to have a big waddle going on as he tries to balance all this water that's in his stomach. But he's definitely drank a lot more than I would have thought he was going to drink, that's for sure. So peaceful down here. What a special morning we've had. It was difficult to find him up front, but it's definitely worked in our favor. Vegas Beauty Snob, you're wondering how often the male lions all meet up together. Well, difficult to say because we don't see the Birminghams as much as we used to, but we know that they do join one another quite regularly. The other night at the Buffalo Carcass, Tinyo was with Nsuku there, and there was a third one roaring close by, so they do meet up quite regularly. I would say, I mean, at least every 2-3 days they're bumping into one another. Remember that they are roaring, so even if they don't meet up, they know where each other is, and they certainly know where to look for one another. So it's an interesting sort of thing that they don't have to actually stress too much about finding each other to know where one another is and to know everything's okay. Now, where are you going to go, Mr. Tinyo? He should come out through that gap over there. There he comes. He's going to come straight towards us, which is fantastic. Oh, look at this. Are you going to come lie in the shade of the dam here? Seems as though he's going to come straight towards where we are and come and lie right next to us. I wouldn't be surprised if he decides this is where he wants to rest. It's nice and shady and cool here. Hello, boy. There he goes. Just walking behind us now. I don't know, it seems as though he's still walking quite quickly, so I don't think he's going to stop just here. Is he going up there, Senzo? Yeah, he is going up. So he's getting up now towards the other side. So let's try see if we can see him. But like I said, there are others that want to come, so I think what we're going to do is probably leave him once we get on top of this ridge, just to allow the other guys to get round, and then from there we can head out and try and see if I can find his footprint so that I can show all of you what it looks like. Let's see. Come on, Wendy. Wendy doesn't want to go up the hill today. Her diff lock is not working as well as it should be by the looks of it, things, and that's why you're going to see a nice little dust cloud coming past me as we try to negotiate up that hill. Where's Tinyo gone? Oh, there he is. I wonder where he's off to now. I would have thought after all of that he was going to find a shady spot, and that little drainage line that we were in is the perfect spot for a male lion if he wants to try and find some shade and to rest and to sleep and to take it easy for the rest of the day. It's definitely gotten quite warm over the last sort of 20 minutes. Is he still walking? Yes, he's still walking. Right, now from one animal drinking to Tara, who's with, well, something the lions would eat, who's also drinking.
Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, we've just been watching this bachelor group Impala, and they have been going down to the water's edge, but only in ones and twos, and they're very much on edge, and I'm just wondering if they're catching the scent of a predator, but they are actually heading towards where they've been looking, but they've just been so on edge. There was one of them that did give a snort, that and they all jumped a mile. So I do wonder if they're picking something up. We're just at Treehouse Dam at the moment, so they all are looking behind us, and there's actually a termite man behind us, but there's nothing sat on top of the termite man that I can see. As I say, they are walking that way, so whatever they are picking up, it's obviously, they've obviously decided it's nothing to worry about too much. But as I say, they are on edge. It's really been quite interesting to watch. They are such a beautiful antelope, and you can see on some of them the oxpeckers have actually been landing on them and they keep getting chased off. Yeah, there's a male that's just taking it very easy. I'm going to actually try and reverse around a little bit. I think our plan is to maybe go along Rebecca's, maybe back up Zoe's. We didn't see the elephants, they might have gone a bit further south. As I say, Mvula's tracks were seen, so it'd be quite nice to have another scratch around that area, maybe Impala Plains. And there they go, behind the termite mound. And actually, I was thinking about quite a funny story involving the young male leopard, Mishu. I think he was about 1.5 years old at that stage, maybe 2, something like that. And we actually had a group of warthog just to the right of the termite mound. And Mishu came up behind, so kind of where the impala were walking, he came up from that side. And he came around the front of the termite mound while we were sat watching. And he ran straight into the middle of the warthogs, which was quite brave. And the warthogs scattered. So there was a mother with maybe about five piglets, I think it was. So he managed to get hold of one. But the mother then turned around and charged straight back into Mishu, and all we saw was Mishu jumping about 1.5 meters off the ground and after dropping the piglet. So that was definitely Warthog 1, Leopard 0. And he was so bewildered as to what had happened, he just couldn't understand what had just charged into him. And the piglet obviously took that initial startle and charged off himself, so lived another day. So they're now chewing the cud. Oh, there you go, you can see the red-billed oxpecker combing his way through the fur on the back of the impala. That's got to be annoying. And the feet on the oxpecker are actually 2 toes forward and 2 toes back. They're wondering if the impala feel that their personal space is invaded, and I think they must do. You can see they get quite irritated, and I think especially when they're trying to listen out for predators, I think that was why they were getting chased off quite a lot down by the water's edge. And obviously it's quite a dangerous point for them because their head's down, so they're not able to detect predators as quickly. Crocodiles could come out of the water, so drinking is actually quite a dangerous activity because there could be predators around taking advantage of that vulnerable position. You see, really holding on there. It's like, no, I will clean you. Oh, shame, he looks so unimpressed. But yeah, so the songbirds that you probably are very familiar with back home, they tend to have 3 toes forward and 1 toe back. So that's very typical of the songbirds or the passerines. So the oxpeckers are zygodactyl, or they have the zygodactyl feet. So the 2 toes forward and 2 toes back. Same as woodpeckers and anything that needs to climb up and down things. So with the woodpeckers obviously climbing up and down trees. And the oxpeckers, that is such a beautiful shot. Look at that, bathed in the golden glow of the sun. Absolutely stunning. Let's say the oxpeckers can clamber around on the back, under the belly, around the anus, on the head, as you've seen. They really can get everywhere and anywhere. They'll eat the earwax from the ears, the mucus from the nose, blood from any wounds that the animals might have, so they can actually keep wounds open, so they're not always the best thing to have. There you go, you can see them trying to get any of the ticks out the ears or the earwax. Oh, and I wonder if a special little viewer is on board, because I think Tristan has finally found what he's been promising her. Well done, Tris.
Well, we have, Tara. So, Mita, if you are watching, I know you were asking about buffalo horns, and I've been saying I'll find them over the last few days, and we've been sidetracked by many other things, unfortunately. But this is a very old set of buffalo horns. In fact, this was from early in the drought last year. It died, and you can see that, unfortunately, the skull itself has been completely broken apart. So, you can see what happens over time is that not only do the predators come and feed off the carcass, but as the time goes, so things like hyenas will come and they'll break off little bits. And so this is now the top of the buffalo skull. Inside there you can see, look, lots of little bone structures and insects that have been feeding off the... So I'm trying to get it into the sun so you can actually see the insects in there. I don't know, there's not much light, but there are little beetles that are inside there that would have fed off all the carrion. So you wanted to know if things lived inside these skulls. So those are little carrion beetles, larvae, that will feed off all the little bits of meat that would have been inside there, and that's all the food for that beetle. So you'll find them coming in, and they make the skull very, very clean. Also, this skull was right out in the open, and it was in the sun, which means the sun has bleached it very white. You can see it's gone white in color. And the other thing is it's become very brittle. So when I say brittle, it means that it's something that can break very easily. So if I turn it over like this, because I don't want to make too much of a mess, but you see here, look at this. You can see, look how I can just break it. Alright, if this was a fresh skull, I wouldn't be able to break this bone off. Alright, it's become brittle through sun and time spent in the sun. So unfortunately, this is a very old one. Now, the horn itself has also broken off, which is this over here. So I'm going to get rid of this section because this section is making a big mess in my car meter, and I'm going to be in lots of trouble with Taylor because Taylor likes to keep a nice clean car, and now I'm making a big mess in her car. But this is the top section, so we're going to get rid of that, and now we've got the rest of the horn. Now this horn, you can see, is what used to be the color is that color over there, like a dark brown coloration. But as time has gone on and sun has come through, you can see it's starting to break down, and also, like the skull, is becoming easy to break away. But what we do see are these little tubes. Now, do you see these tubes here, Mita? These tubes are for a little insect, and a special type of insect called a horn-boring moth. Now, this horn-boring moth is the only insect and only animal out here in this part of the world that can digest this keratin sheath. Okay, so this stuff here is called keratin that wraps around the bone, and keratin is like your fingernail. Alright, it's a very similar thing to your fingernail. And this little moth is very special because it's the only one that can eat this. So once the animal dies, this moth comes and it lays its eggs here. The eggs then hatch and form a larvae, and as the larvae eats, it goes to the toilet and it mixes it with silk and its saliva and particles of its feces, and it builds a little tube like this, and that's where the larvae will live. It will grow inside there, and as it grows, so the tube gets bigger and bigger. Look, you can see these ones. Look how long these ones are. That one is very, very long, and that's where the larvae would have lived, and eventually they're going to eat all of this away, that only the bone will be left, and there you can see the bone inside there. So that's what happens to a buffalo skull over time. Long time, and eventually there'll be nothing left whatsoever. It'll all be processed and all be utilized and absorbed back into the soil. Isn't that amazing, Mita? It's very, very clever that these animals can get rid of all of it. So, Jamie, oopsie, I threw the horn away before I answered your question. Let me go grab it quickly again, because it will be interesting for you. You want to know, what does it feel like and what is its texture? Well, Jamie, if you have a look here on top, it's actually all really dusty, so I'm just going to try and just clean it up a bit. But this section here feels almost like polished wood, if that's probably the best way that I can tell you. It's very smooth, it's quite hard, but it is smooth, and it is actually quite soft. You know, it doesn't have any sort of grain to, any roughness to it. So that's how the horn normally feels. They feel almost like polished wood is the best way I can describe it. Once it starts to go and get a bit damaged by the sun, then you can see it becomes very rough, and this feels almost like very soft chipboard or soft wood that is now aging, and you can kind of pull it and it breaks in little pieces as you do so. So that's become very, very rough and not very pleasant at all. In fact, if you listen, you can hear how rough it is as opposed to the smooth section. If I rub on it, you see you can't hear as much at all. Now, the tube things themselves, these actually are quite soft, and they remind me of, I can't almost like popcorn. Once it's popped, those soft sections of the popcorn, if you push it, it's got that same kind of consistency to it when there's nothing inside here. Now most of these are very old, and the moths are probably long gone. There's no actual larvae inside most of these, and you can actually see where some of the holes have been made by those larvae and then just disappeared. But they feel much like what popcorn would feel like once it's popped. So there we go, that's our buffalo skull and how it's breaking down. I'm sure in years to come we're going to come across here and that's going to be gone. You'll find if there's a bit of rain that the hyenas will probably come and pick it up and take it. Now of course I'm going to have to clean this car because I'm going to be in trouble with Taylor. I've certainly made a massive mess, and I've also got myself into a big tangle, so I'm going to have to take that off so that I can get back into the car. But let's see now. Okay, let's get rid of all of that. A little bit of housekeeping. There we go.
Yeah, it was a pretty elegant viewing of the Impala, wasn't it? It's beautiful. So, dwarf mongoose on the termite mound with the yellow-billed hornbills. I'm trying to see if we can get a nice view through there. I'm wondering, actually, there's a little bit of an open area here. Let me just see if I can pull forward. Hopefully the mongoose will all come out. Ah, there we go. Is that okay for you? So there we go. So you've got the hornbills on the right and the dwarf mongoose just hiding behind the bush. It should come out, hopefully, on the left. So this is a mutualistic relationship. Both the hornbill and the dwarf mongoose get something out of each one being there, which is really interesting because the hornbill could potentially eat the dwarf mongoose. I mean, we have seen them eating bats before, and we had a chameleon the other day. So the baby mongoose they could potentially eat, but they don't seem to. And it's even been known for either the hornbills to wait for the mongoose to wake up, or vice versa, before they actually go foraging together. So as the mongoose scurry around, they disturb insects the hornbills can eat, or rodents and things like that, and then the mongoose get the extra pair of eyes, which quite often sit in a branch higher than they can see. And dwarf mongoose are really clever as well. They do have a language for different predators. And they'll have a language for aerial predators and ground predators. And in some areas they've actually found if a batalier flies over, it doesn't have a tail. So if the batalier flies over, bataliers tend to go for carrion rather. They don't tend to hunt the dwarf mongoose in some areas, and the dwarf mongoose will actually ignore that shadow, but any other bird of prey they will then give the call for. Very important, preening. Yeah, definitely, Sammy Jane, brave little mongoose. Oh, very cute dwarf mongoose. Oh, and there are mongoose that you don't see during the day. So the slender mongoose and the dwarf mongoose are out during the day. They're diurnal species. But then we do have the white-tailed mongoose, which is quite a lot larger. Probably, if you think about a big, fluffy domestic cat, it's probably about the same size, maybe even larger than that actually. And then they're not as fluffy, but I'm just thinking of sort of size-wise, a Persian cat or something. Maybe even slightly larger. So quite a big size difference between the different species. So they tend to be nocturnal, the white-tailed mongoose. We have been lucky enough to see them a couple of times on drive. A big fluffy white tail. Definitely larger than meerkats as well. I think that's one everyone's familiar with. Oh, okay, well there they go. So on their little foraging mission. Good luck, guys, stay safe. I say leopards also will eat the dwarf mongoose, and they will give that call, that very high pitched kind of, maybe not quite that. Hi, Christi. Can dwarf mongoose climb trees? They can to a certain degree. Probably not one that's sort of vertical like that, but certainly branches that are angled, and you will get, just like in the meerkats, a sentinel that will sit up on top and have a good look around. So we're now on Rebecca's Road, heading back towards Zoe's. Impala ram standing central, just in the middle of the bush, probably holding on to a territory this time of year during that very short rut. And that is something they've got to kind of decide, you know, do I stand my ground in my territory and literally be by myself, so I, you know, sort of having to spend part of your time feeding, part of your time watching out for predators, or do I go as a group so that at least I can spend more time feeding because there's other individuals looking out for predators. And that's why a lot of the antelope will form herds, and it's quite interesting to watch them almost timeshare between the feeding and the sentinel duties. They'll each take it in turns. Well, I'm not having much luck with my spots this morning, am I? It would be lovely to say goodbye. Unfortunately, everybody, this is my last drive before I head back to the UK. So we're going to carry on having a scratch around this area, see if we do hit it lucky. We might head up towards Impala Plain, see if anything's happening around there. And keep a lookout for those elephants that were in that block. But while we do that, I think Tristan has managed to find some signal and get rid of the gremlins who steal the signal from us. So let's see what he's been up to.
Well, I've just kind of left Tinyo, who's still apparently now sleeping just north of the dam, which is good. But I've come back to where I first started tracking him because I wanted to show the size of his footprint in relation to my hand. So now I've got to just try and find a nice clear one that hasn't been destroyed by too many people. And here we go. Here's some nice ones right here. Let's see, those ones back there are not very clear. I want to just try and see if I can't find a nice clear one for all of you, because it's going to make a lot easier when you can actually see the nice whole track. The problem is I think a lot of vehicles have driven here, so they might have squashed all my footprints that I was hoping to see. But let's have a look. New lion tracks, switch tracks. Well, I know they're here, it's just I'm trying to find a nice clean, clear one that hasn't been destroyed by somebody yet. I know there were some very nice ones up ahead here when we started tracking this morning. Like I said, whether or not those are still here is anyone's guess at this stage, because it seems as though everything has been obliterated, which is not ideal. I'm trying to look also in the middle of the road, so where the vehicles haven't driven. There we go. There's a fairly nice one that I can use. Right, let me position myself so that Senzo can get it on the camera. Alright, Senzo, so these ones here should be a good one to utilize. Right, so now I'm going to have to climb out for this one because if I can't put my hand next to it so that you can all see the size difference. But before I do that, I just need to sort out my mic pack so that it doesn't hang down and doesn't break, because I think Jean-Andre might kill me if that is the case. Right, so our male line track is here. Now, this track over there is the size of it, and we would have known it's a male line even if it hadn't been for the fact that we had seen him on the dam cam. We would have known he's a male just from size. The females will be nowhere near the size. Also, the females will not be as broad as what we see on this track. This track is very wide. The females would be a lot more narrower and have a more of a sort of pointed toe shape than what we see with this guy. But if I put my hand next to it, so I'm going to try and make a nice print as though I was a male lion. So there's my hand print. You can see that the male lion's track is pretty much the same size as my hand. It's not too much smaller, it's a little bit shorter, but not too much, and its width is pretty similar to the width of my palm, so quite large in relation to my hand, and like I was saying earlier, pretty similar. Now, this is not the biggest male lion track I've ever seen. When you track the Matimba males, they had massive footprints that were probably at exactly the same size as my hand when it was up like this. So really big feet that the Matimbas had. The Mapojos also had really large feet as well, and one or two of the Majingis have big feet too. So that is the size of the feet. Now we can see exactly what they look like. Right, I think what I'm going to do from here, now that I've accomplished my buffalo skull footprint mission, I think I'm going to try and head towards the Hyena Den, since we're right here. We're not far obviously from camp. Camp is just over there, so Gallagher's shortcut is really quite close, and it'll be good to go and see if I can finally get to the den. I've been threatening to get there for quite some time, so it will be nice to actually head into that area and try and see if we can't see these new little cubs. They look so cute. I've been watching all the footage from when Tara's been there, and they really are cute little things, so I'm hoping that I will be able to get a glimpse of them this morning. And, well, you never know, maybe we get something else on the way as well. It's been a really fantastic morning spent with Tinyo. We've gotten stuck. It's been an adventure, really. We've heard him roaring, we've tracked him, we've been stuck, we've followed him, we've gone through thickets in the open, watched him drink. So, thoroughly enjoyed my morning of chaos with Tinyo. Daniel, you're asking if the B-Boys are a coalition. Why are they not together? Well, Daniel, the simple fact of the matter is that they have a very large territory, and because they have a large territory and they have multiple female prides that are within that territory, means that they've got to separate to cover everywhere to keep everyone else at bay. So there'll be one male that might be with the Nkuhuma pride. Potentially there's a female coming into Estrus, or there's food, so he's with the Nkuhuma pride. There's another male that might be with the Styx pride, another one with the Torchwood pride, and then the other male is then moving around trying to scent mark, trying to keep other males at bay. So when they're preoccupied somewhere else, there's others that are then keeping the territory secure. So that's why they don't always spend all their time together. They need to be able to secure areas. You must remember that their territory spans northern Mala Mala, the whole of this northern Gari area, even up into Manyaleti a little bit, and into Kruger. So it's a massive section of land that these guys are trying to look after, and so it requires them to split apart from time to time to be able to cover that area. I see now that they've also starting to acquire a new pride, in that they've been mating with lionesses down in the south on Mala Mala, and those lionesses, I think they refer to as the Kumbula pride down there, but they're a pride. They used to be known as the Mangen breakaways, so they are the cubs from the Mangen pride. There's 6 females in that pride, and I think they've had cubs now recently. What's going on here in front? There's impalas running all over the show. Is it males chasing females? It could be the second rut action that we're seeing. Also got to keep a lookout, because we know the wild dogs were around yesterday. Well, they've vanished now. Where did they go? They were kind of... there they are. No, they're all staying still. If it was wild dogs, they would not be standing still in any way, shape or form. They would be still running for their lives. So definitely not the dogs. The dogs last night, for those that are wondering what happened, it was those 3 wild dogs. And they came just south of Shadow when I was sitting with her. You could see the lights in the distance. They then turned in a southeasterly direction, went towards their new road, from the new road onto Zoe's, and then from Zoe's they just ran straight north. And by the time I got back to camp, Senzo had seen them running past camp just as I arrived back, so they were way away from where Shadow was when I got back, so it didn't take them long to get up here. So that's why I was saying it could be them around this area, although I'd imagine by this time of the day they've already run quite a long way and hunted quite a bit. Those 3 seem to never stop moving. They're like Energizer bunnies. They remind me a bit of Brent, those 3 wild dogs, is that they're always just all over the show running and have serious squirrel syndrome where they just see things and they're doing things, and it's exactly like Brent, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, and I mean it with the most respect for Brent, because, well, like I say, he is one of my best friends, so it's not somebody that I would put down. It's more just a joke, and like I say, I mean it with the utmost respect. Right, I'm going to meander my way along towards Gallagher's Shortcut Den site, and while I do that, let's go back to Tara and see where she is and what her plans are for the remainder of her last drive, which is very sad.
Welcome back, everybody. So yeah, we didn't see too much on Rebecca's road. We're now back on Mendoza. I was distracted by a little bee eater, and we were hoping to show it to you, but unfortunately it flew off. But they've got beautiful lime green feathers. It's just so stunning, and they're about this big, but it didn't stay in shot, unfortunately. So I got distracted and we pointed down this way, so I thought, well, we'll give it a go, you never know. So yeah, just having another look around, see if we can see any sign of Shadow. So this is where the tracks actually went in. I'm just wondering if she's got a, you know, sort of a poorly foot, whether she would go far. We thought she might have gone down to Treehouse Dam to drink. But she hasn't made it out yet. We didn't see any tracks crossing the road, so she's somewhere in this block potentially. Unfortunately, this block is quite big. But I can see there's 2 termite mounds there, and I'm almost wondering whether we shouldn't just sneak in and have a look and just see if she isn't lying up there. I think maybe let's try that, just in case. Because I think I'll be forever thinking, I wonder. So let's try it. So it would be nice to see some spots before we go, but I must admit I can't complain at what we've seen. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I hope you've all been enjoying it as much as I have. It has definitely flown by, hasn't it? I'm really glad that Tristan's going to go and have a look at the Hyena Den, because those cubs are so cute. So we're just around the back. There's a big termite mound there. This one's not as big. I just thought for now she could potentially be lying down on it. It is starting to warm up a bit. I'll just go around the back and then head back out, and there's the back end of that one as well. There's a nice bush on top of that mound. She could be lying underneath. We'll turn around and we'll have a look. So while we just have a quick look around the back of this termite mound, before heading out. I think Tristan is on his way to the Hyena Den, so we can check in on how he's getting on with that.
Well, I am, Tara. I'm almost there now. I'm slowly just meandering my way up that side because it's a beautiful morning and I'm enjoying just driving around and looking and seeing what there is out here and spending some time taking it easy. I don't think anyone's actually driven this road this morning, so just checking the tracks as well as I'm going, just to give me an idea of what else is out here for this afternoon. Now, talking about afternoons, as of tomorrow afternoon, we will be starting our afternoon safaris half an hour later, which means that we'll be going out at 3:30 Central African time, so 3:30 Central African time from tomorrow afternoon. That is what is going to be happening. Now, this afternoon we should hopefully be having the Mara with us again and being back out and into the drive, so if you're looking forward to seeing them again, well, that will be out this afternoon and joining me, because I'm going to be on my own for the next few days here at Djuma until Taylor gets back on Thursday. So it will be Djuma and Mara drives for the remainder of the week until Thursday when Taylor is back. So, just so you all remember, 3:30 Central African time from tomorrow. Right, now we are here. Let's see if I can just get in. I will, of course, remind you all again this afternoon and tomorrow morning, so don't worry for those of you that probably, well, who may have missed it or haven't watched today. I will do it again from this afternoon and tomorrow morning, just so that you're all with us and don't miss things and get up half an hour early for those of you that are in different time zones, and so that we keep everyone abreast of the situation. Right, little balls of fluff, where are you? I want to see you. Come on Wendy, come on Wendy. Okay, so there is Gwen by the looks of it. So I wonder, it's going to be better if we go that side, because if Gwen is lying there, I'm pretty sure the little ones are going to come to where she is. So let's go back onto this other 2-track that we have here. We should get a fairly nice visual from here. I just want to poke my nose in from here. We should be able to see Gwen quite nicely. Now the little ones may be a little nervous. No, Gwen, don't go. Let's see. Sorry, Senzo, it's a little thick at the moment, but ow. Well, that was very pleasant. Senzo, you're right there? Okay, cool. So there we go. Gwen should start settling down now as well. Probably just wondering what's going on. You can see it's Gwen just by the tatty ears. From far away you can already see her, and she's got that sort of look about her. I don't know why, there's something about her face that I just recognize when I see her from a long way away, but definitely the tatty ears help as well. Now the little ones aren't here by the looks of it with her at the moment. Like I say, they might have run into the den because of the noise of the car arriving. That is very possible and does happen quite often when it comes to little tiny ones. They're still getting used to us, and so until such time as everything's quiet and down, you'll find they hide away, and then they'll come out when things get a little bit quieter, I'm hoping. You can see she's been lying in a mud wallow somewhere. On her right hip there's a bit of mud. There we go. So not uncommon for hyenas to go and do this. They often will make their way towards water where they'll lie in it, and it just helps to cool their body down quite quickly. They seem to really like water. When I was down in the Sand River, I used to see them often playing around in the shallows of the Sand River, jumping and running and chasing one another. So very common to see. You can see she's just watching around, just checking, making sure that we haven't arrived with anything untoward. But look at the bulk of that neck and those shoulders. Massive. You've got grass all over your face, Gwen. You need to clean yourself up, my girl. She's obviously been lying down and resting and sleeping so nicely that the grass is all stuck to her face. Particularly after, if she had a bit of a wet coat, then you'll find that the grass does stick a little bit more. But you can see she's just looking up the mound every now and then. I wonder if the little ones didn't just run behind there just now. She keeps looking that way and just seeing where they are. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are happy to see the hyenas, and it's so nice that we've actually had the hyenas spending more time in our area and this den site, and to have these new little additions to the den is fantastic news. So Djuma seems to be doing well. We've got 2 new ones. Gwen looks as though she's in good health, and Ribbon as well. Now, for just to see Madam and Pretty and Corky and see where they all are and find what they're up to. It would be nice if we could find a den site for the alpha, well, the higher ranking females, the matriarchal females, should we say, not alpha females. It would be good to see where they are and what they're up to, because they're the ones that we have seen very little of over this year. We've seen quite a bit of Ribbon, obviously, and Gwen has started the year seeing her, and then has, well, itchy. There we go, getting rid of all the bits of grass. And then Ribbon kind of carried us through, and Gwen at the beginning of the year. So it's been good to see a lot of the lower ranking females and that they've been denning. Now we just need the higher ranking females to set up a den and to have 2 hyena dens, and that would be fantastic news. And I really, really hope that these 2 little ones survive. It's been a rough year for our hyena cubs. They've had a tough time of it, and I'm not sure what's happened to them. We know that there was one that was with Djuma, and that one disappeared, and who knows what happened there. We've seen quite a few of the leopards hanging around that Philemon's den cut line, so maybe one of the leopards got to it, or lions. There we go. She's going to go and call them out, maybe. Let's see. Come on, little ones. There they come, look, there they are. Hey guys. Oopsie, back down we go. Now, Molly, you say the hyenas here at Djuma seem cute and sweet. Oh, and there comes Djuma now as well. Whereas the ones in the Mara seem angry and aggressive. Well, it's probably a bit of a sort of situational thing. We unfortunately don't get to spend nearly as much time with our hyenas here as what we see in the Mara. Also, the clans here are much smaller than what is in the Maras, which means those ones up there tend to be very brazen and very sort of open about going after other lions and trying to tackle everybody and really fight with everyone, whereas these ones are a little bit smaller and they're a bit more wary of our lions in this area. So you find that the hyenas in this particular clan are a bit nervous of what goes on. Hey little one, what you doing? Isn't that the cutest little thing? Now, if you take the Elephant Plains clan that's around, they're a lot more brazen and are a lot more like the Mara hyenas. They tend to push lions about and be involved in everything and chase wild dogs and leopards, and are a lot more aggressive in their behavior than what we're seeing from the hyenas of the Djuma clan. You're still a bit wobbly. These things are brand new. I would imagine they must be maybe 3 weeks. There comes the little head of the other one. So for anyone who is worrying about the second one, there it comes. They're both still absolutely fine. Look at you guys. Oh, a little grooming. Sammy Jane, you're wondering how often 2 cubs survive. Well, in my experience with the Djuma clan, obviously has not been, oh, this one's about to fall. If it doesn't watch where it's going, it's kind of backing up. Oh, there we go. The Djuma clan has not been very long. I haven't had too much time around them, and the ones that I have seen, unfortunately, there's been a number of deaths among the smaller ones and siblings. So not too successful from the Djuma clan side as yet. But if I take the experience over a whole of all the years that I've watched hyena cubs, it's actually quite common for both to survive. We've seen quite a few here in the Djuma clan. If I look at the lineage going backwards, there's a few that have survived here. The Elephant Plains clan, it was pretty much, I can't even remember them losing one in the 2 years that I was in Simbambili, and so lots of siblings that made it. Oh, look at these two. This is bundles of energy and cuteness. Look, are you coming to see what's going on? It's amazing how between the two of them there is always one that's a little bit more investigative and more confident to go and explore and to go and check around what's going on, and then you get one that's a little more shy. Look how this one is rubbing up on Mom. Are you saying hello to Mom? And now playing, running through the legs. So cute. Oh, unfortunately there's a branch in front of there. I want to just wait for Gwen to lie down, and then once she lays down... Oh, Gwen, you're going to fall, my girl. Be careful. I'm just going to try and sneak forward for Senzo so that he's got a more open view. The little ones might just jog into the bush a little bit. There we go. That should be better, Senzo. Braylee, you're a new viewer. Welcome to Safari Live, Braylee. I hope you're enjoying it so far. And you want to know how many members can a hyena clan have? Well, Braylee, it's a bit like how long is a piece of string, because it depends on a number of factors. The Djuma clan is not very big, whereas if you go to the clan that it lies to the west of them, there is over 50 members in that clan now. And if you go up into the Mara, there's some of those clans that are also 50, 60, 70 hyenas together. And in parts of Ethiopia, there's big clans there that also can number 100 adult hyenas. So it just depends on the area, food availability, other predators, water availability that will dictate the size of them. And so you find that they can be variable from 5-6 animals all the way up to 100. So it really is variable depending on the area and how they can sustain themselves with food and competition with other predators. But you can see the two of them are fighting over the teats. Now, with the hyena, she only has 2 teats, and so these two will jostle for position, but they will ultimately both get a teat to feed on, which is good news. And you just find that it's about getting comfortable and getting to the right one. What also will happen is that between the two of them, it depends on their sex. If they are a female, then they often will bully the male. If there's a male cub sibling, they'll bully him and take the best teat and the best position, and often they'll push each other around. If it's 2 females, then competition will be fierce to be able to become the stronger one of the two and be able to dominate the other one. So even as a small age, they will start having that trait where they start to dominate one, and you'll find one will grow slightly bigger than the other one. And then there'll be a bit of competition going forward. You can see, look how they push each other as they vie for position. Mom's paws just got in the way of that. Listen. Some squeaking going on. You two are far too cute for your own good. Isn't this cool, guys? We are so fortunate to be able to see this. I feel like Gwen, though, is going to go flying down this hill at any moment. She's lying at such an awkward angle. You can see even the little ones are battling to find a firm footing to actually suckle. They're almost sliding down the bank. She needs to find a better way to lie in order for them to suckle easier. You can see squeaking going on because it can't reach the teat. Super cute though. I'm sure Gwen will soon try and find a way to lure them down a little bit. Barn Cat Chris, who is also new to Safari Live, so welcome as well. And you want to know, how do we determine whether they're male or female at such a young age? Well, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to be exact with the two of them at this size. We basically have to look at their genitalia. Oh, there we go. There's a bit of fighting happening between the siblings. Mom's getting involved now. But it's basically their genitalia that is what affects or is how we sex them. So at this stage we haven't been able to see their genitalia, so it's difficult to know actually who's who. But effectively the males will have a much more enlarged end to, because remember, if you're new to this program, that female hyenas do have fake male genitals. Basically it's a pseudopenis, and so the male pseudopenis will have a more rounded end to it and a bulbous end, whereas the females is a little bit straighter, and that's how we sex them when they're so young. But these two, I don't know if anybody has seen the genitals yet and has been able to sex them as yet. Now I believe Tara's got a bird, so let's quickly go across to... Oh no, it's flown off, I'm afraid. Sorry guys, I thought we would quickly be able to get across to Tara, but it flew off before I could even finish saying quick link. So that's just unfortunately the way it is. Now you can see with hyena, after we've been looking at male lion tracks earlier, now we can see the difference between the hyenas. You see that their claws are exposed and all blunted from being exposed and have worn down. There's also those banana shaped toes, unlike our lion toes we had earlier that were bright or very rounded and separated from one another. Her toes have that banana shape to them. Oh, Gwen, you are definitely going sliding down this bank at some point. She's almost wrapping herself around the entrance of the mound to allow these two to feed. Here we go. Campy, you want to know how old Gwen is. I'm not 100% sure exactly how old she is. I know that she is a old female, just given that her ears and everything like that is well damaged, and you can see that she's an older female. I would imagine that she must be around 12 years, 11, 12 years, maybe 13 at a push. I know a lot of our viewers have followed these hyenas for long periods of time, so I'd love to hear your input, but my opinion would be somewhere around 12, which is quite old for a hyena. Hyenas sometimes don't live much beyond that, so she's done really well to still be alive and to be able to have her little ones. And you find that most hyenas will be somewhere around 15 when they as a maximum lifespan. So I would imagine this will be Gwen's last litter that she would potentially have if they survive to adulthood. But she's somewhere around there. I think it's 2006, somewhere there. Would be 12 years. Does that sound right? 11 years. That's 11 years. Sorry, my maths is terrible. But so 11 years would be 11, 12. Yeah. I might be right, I don't know, might be wrong. It's difficult sometimes with hyenas, especially low-ranking females, because their ears get tatty quicker and they get bullied a little bit. So it's difficult with that, but I would imagine somewhere in that area. Right, we're going to carry on watching our little cute hyenas, but we're going to quickly go back to Tara so she can say goodbye to all of you and do her last segment for her time this time, because hopefully she will be back. And from myself, it's been an absolute pleasure working with Tara, and I've really enjoyed her being around, and I hope that she's enjoyed it just as much. And it's been fantastic to not only work with her but to learn from her as well. So enjoy her last few words, and we'll see you all in a little bit.
Let me finish on a Dung.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Tristan, and yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic being back. And as Seb's just said, I don't know if you caught that as we went live, but typical, I'm ending on the dung. It's so true. So I just wanted to show you, since we have been talking about hyena dung or scat, that I just wanted to show you the hyena midden that's just on the junction of Gallego and Voyatella access. So Seb's just zooming in on a few of the older patches there, and I think there was one that was actually quite dark in colour as well. So yeah, I think that's quite fitting, isn't it? Ending on the dung like that. I hadn't even thought about it. So there you go. I do have a slight obsession. A bit worried. But it has been absolutely fantastic being back, and reliving the memories and making new ones. I really can't complain. We've had some phenomenal sightings this week. It's just been absolutely incredible. I'm so glad you got to catch up with the sorry, I'm just getting a comment through there from Daniel from Scotland asking about my favourite sighting. There has been so many, but I'm so glad you've caught up with the cubs, and Tristan's finally got to see the cubs. I think Seb still hasn't seen them, so hopefully this afternoon maybe. But that's definitely been a highlight, seeing those 2 new cubs. I'd say Daniel from Scotland saying that the mouse running into the lion, that was hysterical. Absolutely. Have you seen it yet, Seb?
No.
You have to see the clip.
Story, but I haven't seen the clip, no.
I mean, that was just, I'll definitely be dining out on that one. Obviously having the mating leopards as well. That's the first time I've actually seen them during the day, actually mating and actually spending time with mating leopards. It really has just been absolutely phenomenal, and that's what I love about what we do here at Safari Live, being able to make these memories, and the fact that we're filming them as we go live, so we can actually keep them forever. And you know, reliving some of the stories from yesterday, seeing some of those clips, obviously not as high a standard as what it is now with the cameras, but still pretty amazing. And I am very sad to be going, and I'm just hearing you guys are sad to see me go as well. And thank you for all your questions, all your input, all your comments. It really does make the show so special. And it's funny actually, every time I keep coming back I feel like I'm passing on the baton. So I was actually here for Brent's first drive. I handed over and I walked off quarantine, so I handed him over, and now he is obviously in the Mara and doing extremely well, as Jamie and everybody else there. And I've really got so high expectations for where Safari Live are going. I think it is just absolutely incredible what is done here, and I truly believe with all my heart this is really the place to be to watch wildlife, and I hope we're going to be going all across the world with it. But I think
I'll give you a hug, man.
don't, you're gonna make me cry actually. So yeah, and it has just been awesome making new friends. Oh,
It was nice to have you, Tom.
it has been fantastic. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Screenshot, 14 August 2017.
Exactly. Team,
It was nice to
I didn't
have
leave you hanging.
From everyone at Wilders, I want to say
Yeah.
thank you. It was really, really nice to have you back.
It's been wonderful. See, I'm actually welling up. But also I would love to say thank you so much to everybody who has followed my career, who has supported me all this way, all my way. Thanks, Seb.
It's okay, it's okay.
So-
It's the wind.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm gonna be going home and spending some wonderful time with my family, and having a niece that's going to be born in September, so I'm totally looking forward to that. And yeah, absolutely phenomenal. So I think on that note, thank you so much everybody for watching. Do catch Tristan. He's going to be on this afternoon at the normal time at 3 o'clock. The safari tomorrow afternoon is going to be at 3:30, just to remind you. Do tune in. It's fantastic. Safari Live. Bye everybody.